you everyone for spending your lunchtime with us today. I'm Purvi Shah. I'm the founder of Kids and Art Foundation, and I'm very excited to have Janice Nakano Spivak launch our monthly lunchtime speaker series in the month of September to commemorate Childhood Cancer Awareness Month and to honor the amazing legacy of my son Amay, who passed away 10 years ago on September 25th, 2011. Just as a quick insight into kids and art, COVID kept us on our toes and we rolled with all the punches it threw at us. During 2020 and 2021, we have conducted 41 online art workshops and created with 433 participants. We have had patient families from 15 different hospitals at our workshops. Since we launched our Art Kit program in February of this year, we have sent out 2,100 art kits to participating hospitals like UCSF, Stanford Children's Hospital, Children's of Mississippi, Nemours Children's in Delaware, Logan Health in Montana, and John Muir in California. And for the month of September, as a celebration of our amazing legacy, we have sent out 400 art kits as a gift of art to 10 need-based hospitals around the country. Keep in mind that each art kit costs us $25, so I'm very grateful to all of you for your donations and support. With the goal of featuring conversations on quality of life, care, whole person care, and integrating arts in healthcare, the AHI 2021 Speaker Series features an assimilation of storytellers who have used the power of art to overcome challenges such as grief, failure, mental and physical health issues, and more. Today, I'm really honored to welcome a dear friend, a really great designer, creative thinker. Janis Nakano Spivak is an award-winning executive and business transformation strategist with over 30 years in next-gen advertising, marketing, and media. 5 years ago, she did a career pivot and founded Bright Catalysts, a wellness intelligence and insights company. Crush and Flow, the first consumer service, is dedicated to providing simple and actionable programs for personal change. Janice is also the co-founder of a next-gen CX platform delivering emotional intelligence for greater consumer understanding. She's also an adjunct faculty member of Chip Conley's Modern Elder Academy and teaches a corporate masterclass in positive intergenerational communication. In her spare time, her daily wooing of hummingbirds helps her practice lightness and patience in everything. Without further ado, I'm going to let you take it from here. Janice, thank you so much for being here.
I am so honored. I'm so delighted. I'm just such a fan. And thank you so much for inviting me back because it's your second annual Kids and Art AHI. And I think we did 2020.
That's right.
I'm going to dive right in, not really talk about myself, but really dedicate the first half of this to you, the people who are here. Thank you so much for making time for yourself. We're probably going to spend about 30 minutes just flowing into you, activating your wisdom, getting familiar and giving space for your own intelligence to come into play. And then we're going to spend the second half doing Q&A. I apologize that I can't see you in this format, but I know that you're there and know that my heart is with you as we go through this. If you have any comments, pop them into chat. And what'll happen is we'll actually address those at the end. So let's dive right in. You know, Purvi said, you know, we're going to talk about wisdom. And I'm like, what is wisdom? My goodness, you know, there's so many different dimensions to the word. wisdom and what we believe it is. So I started to look into what's a definition of wisdom. So went to the standard Oxford Dictionary, and they have these lovely words: experience, knowledge, understanding, common sense, and insight, all coming together to be the word, to roll up into the word of wisdom, a wise person, a knowing person. Then I looked at the philosophers. Ancient philosophers use the term sapience, sapiens, and that is self-knowledge, interconnectedness, compassion, love that word, and intuition. And it goes into the ability to, have a sense of perceiving. There's a rise in meditation, which I love. And that meditation is really about being able to perceive and have compassion for others as well as self. And the cognitive scientists breaking it down with hyphenated words: open-mindedness, insight, self-regulation, perspective knowing. I've never seen that word hyphenated before. And realizing relevance, another word that I've never seen brought together before. So as we start to bring all of that together, oh my gosh, right? Kind of hard to live up to the word wise or wisdom. All of these things at the same time? Well, yes, our brains are amazing. Our brains are amazing, but we don't give enough voice to that instant knowing, to what I call intuition, our gut, right? We tend to prioritize our rational brain. So we think about, gosh, when did I stop trusting my knowing, which was that amazing set of things that our brain is able to do immediately, less than a second. And we get stuck on all of the rules. We get stuck on all of the rules. And so the methodology which we've developed with Crush started with play, started with unleashing our creative intelligence to counterbalance, not eliminate our rational and critical brain, our core operating system, our long-term memory and our essential rules, but rather to complement our creative brain and bring more fun and joy into our decision making. When did making a decision become so serious? When did we begin to only trust our systematic brain? When did we lose connection to our joy and the idea of unlocking our intuition and our creative self? I think the work that Kids&Art does is the essence of this. It's the essence of bringing together holistically all parts of our experience into the act of healing through connectedness, lifting spirit through connectedness. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to have you learn about, and then you'll also have moments to actually play and practice just some little sprints that we use to help people just listen, bring into the front as opposed to push back our intuition. Now, I put the time in there because that's super important. I went to a cognitive scientist when we first started doing crushes, and I was like, why is this working? And he looked at it and he said, oh, because it actually doesn't take that much time for us to listen to our intuition. It takes more time to sort of cycle around, right? And get lost in all of the data and the processing of our rules in our rational brain. And so the point of this is being playful doesn't take a lot of time. We tend to put it off. Oh, I don't have time to do that. But not only is giving your wisdom just a moment of your day will help you refocus and rediscover consistently where you are in your journey and what is most important at that time. So, as we do each of these sprints, what we're going to be doing is just giving your intuition an equal voice at the table. And we're going to show you a technique where you can let also your critical and rational voice have a place at the table as well. So, first sprint is going to be listen, then we're going to do a little listing, learning, and telling. Now, I know that you may have gotten a playbook ahead of time. If you did not get a playbook, use some paper, use some Post-its. I actually have moved to something, and I'm going to do a little call out to these guys because I love them. It's something called Rocketbook, and these are erasable and reusable little index cards that I use instead of Post-its now because I was feeling so badly about all the paper I was killing. um, so before we begin, and because it's lunchtime, and I know that you all have just like running in between things, pausing for a moment, we're going to do a little pause. And this is actually a sprint. It's something you can do at any part of your day. And we're going to do it right now to refresh our brain when we go forward. So if you are snacking, please put down your food for a moment. If you're taking a sip, put down that. And what we're going to do is we're going to sit up in our chairs, toes to heels. I'd like you to place both feet parallel in front of you. And if you're standing, the same, place them in front of you. And I'd like you to just pause for a moment and feel yourself connected to the earth, toes to heel. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take a deep breath in from our toes all the way up our legs through our core. Breathe in, and then as we breathe out, gently close your eyes. Take another deep breath in. And as you breathe out, gently let your shoulders drop. Take another deep breath in from your core up. And let your shoulders drop further. Now roll your shoulders back, sit up straight, and I'd like you to just pause for one beat and pay attention. All you're going to do is visualize the energy that is being generated in your mind. Just see it as little bright lights. Imagine the energy. And what you're going to do is let that all flow out of the top of your head. Just imagine that you've just opened up a release hatch and let that all flow out because you just don't need it for the next 15 minutes. Just let it flow out. You've opened up a little space for yourself. And now we're going to do a count. So I'd like you to breathe in on the count of 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'd like you to breathe out from down below your belly button. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Out. Take a deep breath in and open your eyes. We've got a little mental refresh. That count is actually super helpful when you're in a change, a context change. Imagine that you're running from Zoom meeting to Zoom meeting. You just need to shift your brain, use that count movement. Really helpful to be, okay, where am I right now? Okay, let's shift into what's on our minds. The bulk of our operating system, like all the rules that we have, are actually created in our minds, in our brains, by the age of 7. So just think like all of the cultural, knowledge base, experiential rules that we use, the base of that. We all know these. At this age, you do this, right? People like you do this. You must be doing this, right? So we have this baseline core set of wisdom set in place by the age of 7. Now, here's a fascinating part. For centuries, hundreds of years, up until the last 10 years, it was believed that everything that we were was it. That's who you are. That's what you are. And what they've now discovered is with brain plasticity, it's not true. So a lot of these things that were set in place to keep us safe, maybe centuries ago, our great grandparents said, here's the family wisdom. That got handed down, and that got handed down, and we are still using it from the age of horse and buggy to now in Tesla. So what we're going to do is really examine what is actually suiting us for where we are today. And how you're going to do that is you're going to use your little Post-its, or in my case, I use these little index cards. You can use little pieces of paper. And as we do each sprint, what you're going to do is you're going to write down the rules that are going to come up and stop you from just following your intuition. Now, by the way, you can also write out things that are giving you joy. You can write out feelings. You can write out expressions, little notes to yourself. We had one woman who used our crush regularly who said, I can't believe how much I'm writing down what I have to make for dinner tonight. My shopping list, right? All of these distracting things that come into our brains regularly. So these are things that fill our brain, and this technique helps us when we're trying to focus on something else. Just write down the distracting thoughts and say, I'll deal with you later. Boom, keep putting them to the side. And then you can take a moment, which we will today, and you can actually focus on what your critical brain and your rational brain is telling you. Okay, so we're going to jump right into this first sprint. It's 3 minutes. 3 minutes. And what we're going to do is just do a check-in. Now, the hard part about this is as we do this, your rational brain is going to want to criticize what you're going to do. It's going to say, oh, what are you doing? Is that right? So what I'm going to encourage you to do is not think your way through this first sprint, but feel your way through the first sprint. Don't engage in what ifs, don't engage in should haves. Just feel your way and be curious about yourself. What is that? That's so interesting. So what do? We run our way around each of these different items in the circle. And what you're going to do is you're going to associate a number. 5, just today, I'm super satisfied with this area of my life. 1, not so satisfied with this area, and any number in between. So you're going to feel your way through that. You're going to write a number through that. And then what you're going to do is you're going to give your rational brain a moment to say, okay, that's a 3. That's super surprising. What can I do to bump up that number? Now, remember, what we're doing today is we're just learning techniques. It's not about getting it right, it's about just playing and trying. As you do this, lots of thoughts are going to pop in your brain that you're going to write down on Post-its. Oh, that's so interesting. This is what popped in my brain when I wrote down this number. So, first sprint, you've got 3 minutes. Just go through it, write a number against one, or enjoy your lunch and just enjoy the moment of 3 minutes. Starting now, go for it. And you have 1 minute remaining. Enjoy being curious, enjoy listening. All of these templates are able to be used at any time. We're sharing the playbook with you so that you can just check in with yourself anytime you'd like. So here's a second sprint, listing. So, what's interesting, I find, especially as a mother, an entrepreneur, and a support to a number of individuals, is I tend to try and keep everything in here. Boom, 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 right? And I love this quote because, you know, we tend to only give credit. We tend to only give credit to visual things, tangible things. We call that clutter. What we don't actually pay attention to is the stuff in our brain, which, oh my God, is really the most powerful thing we should be paying attention to. So, listing is really every once in a while just reviewing, where am I spending my precious energy physically, mentally, and emotionally? We tend to only pay attention to what we are physically doing instead of really thinking about what are the things that I am doing mentally and emotionally. Feeling worried about time. We had a crusher who said, I can't believe how much time I spend worrying about how much time I don't have. It's just like, oh, I can relate to that. I can relate to that. I'm using energy cycles thinking about how much time I don't have to think, right? So do this little exercise. You got 3 minutes again. List everything that you're doing. What is essential? What do you want to stop soon? And what do you want to do more of? And then we're going to do flow right into the next one. I'll give you the changeover time to think about, where do you want to invest more time physically, mentally, and emotionally? We're talking about goals. Where do we want to refocus? Refocus the things that we're going to shift from doing. Small incremental things. I'll tell you, mine is a single word, shifting from I have to I get to. It's really hard. So think about this. It's not just big physical things. Where are you spending your physical, mental, and emotional energy? 2.5 minutes for this first one. We're going to give 2.5 for the next one. Starting now, go for it. Don't forget to use your little post-its to write down notes to yourself, anything that's popping up, critiques that are coming up in your brain, emotions, joy. And whenever you're ready, start shifting over to, where would you like to be investing your energy physically, mentally, and emotionally? What do you want to be doing more of? What can you begin now? What can you start planning? What's in your longer term wish list? We have 1 minute remaining. Be curious about yourself. Be curious. Okay, hopefully that opened the door a little bit. Discovery, creativity, giving yourself permission to dream. This is the third sprint. And it's really about observing and understanding where your rules are and what's on your mind. Where are you actually focused? So we have a perception of what we're focusing on, and if you've been writing down on your post-its what's on your mind, that's your actual focus. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at that and discover what are the themes. What are the overriding themes that are on your mind today? It might shift from day to day, but this technique I use a lot when I'm just overwhelmed, right? And I've got a lot of information coming in. I just start to write on post-it. What is on my mind today? What are the blockers that I'm telling myself? And we're familiar with all of these. Oh, I can't do that because of X, Y, and Z, but I'm supposed to do this, but I don't have enough time, but I have to do this, right? What are all of the things that are coming up for you? You're going to have 3 minutes to do this. So if you have not been writing on post-its, just write those down. And then what the key is here is to find the themes, because our rational brain likes systems. It's all about systems. So what you're going to find is you might have a lot of energy coming in and messaging coming in, but it might actually be around only a few themes. We had a crusher do this, and I was watching her physically, and she generated 40 post-its in front of her. I mean, it was just like intense. Now, by the way, she was a new mother. She had 2 toddlers at home. She was changing jobs, and of course her brain was filled with stuff. When she finished actually looking at the themes, the groupings, she realized she actually had 3 things, just 3 things. It's just her busy brain generating a lot of messaging around single themes. So other themes might be, it might be chores for you. It might be health for you. It might be money for you, right? But just see if you can find any themes. Okay, 3 minutes. I recommend the first part. What you do is generate all the stuff that you just know is always on your brain. And the second part, what you do is you start to sort and see if you can find some themes. if you haven't already, start to sort and see if you can find patterns. Apples and oranges. Put all the apples together, put all the oranges together. And you have 1 minute. Okay. Hopefully, you've treated everything with curiosity, interest, discovery. I think this is one of the most powerful quotes because what it talks about is the idea of compassion for self. Think about how much of our precious energy we spend on critiquing our own self. Why didn't you know that? Why didn't you do that? Really going back and thinking about the woulda, coulda, shouldas, as we say. What if we just thought about, I know better now. Wow, cool. We're afraid of our intuition, our wisdom, and then trying it and then adjusting it and learning, as opposed to saying, I'm going to make some mistakes, but I am still going to trust myself because I am learning constantly. I'm a being in evolution. And what that means is I deserve compassion, forgiveness, and the joy of creating, listening to myself, and going towards what I would like to be doing more of. Okay, super quick. You're going to go back and look at what you've done today, checking your levels of satisfaction. You got some numbers there, looking at your current activities and where you want to be doing things, and then looking at what kinds of things your brain is focused on. What are you focused on? And then tell yourself one thing and one thing only. Is there anything obvious you want to try? Small adjustment. Is there anything small that you want to adjust in your current trajectory? Start with small steps. We all have big, like, oh man, I'm going to get rid of that thing. This is a first step, a small adjustment. Not a big, hairy, audacious go. A small adjustment. You got 2 minutes, write it down. Write yourself a love letter. What are you going to try? And you have 1 minute. Did you discover anything? Write that down. Write little notes for yourself. What is your wisdom telling you today? Okay, what we've learned today are actually 5 with the breathing, playful practices. You can teach this to anyone. You can use it for yourself. It doesn't take a lot of time. And frankly, the timing, the short amount of time is important to letting your intuition come to the forefront. It says, you got only 3 minutes. It's my turn. And your wisdom comes up and it says, I'm going to actually tell you what I know right now. If you find yourself cycling around and thinking about the what ifs, that's why the Post-its are so important. If you discovered that, it is a really interesting discovery. We have some people who've gone through this multiple, I get stuck. Oh, isn't that interesting? That's such an interesting thing. Practice. Practice giving yourself tiny little sprints. Work your way into letting your wise self come out and talk. Not your rule self. You should not. But rather, here's where we are right now. Here's where we are right now. So each of these, we have, by the way, we have also had audiences and what we call crushers from 15, as young as 15, all the way to 80 plus, learn these techniques, teach these techniques. They're really nice ways for simple, fast ways for you to get when you're feeling like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. Just pushing it all out, looking at it, playing with it. That's the idea of Post-its. I use lots of colors if you can, right? Use colored pens if you can, and just play. So I'm going to leave you with this before we go into Q&A. I love this. Kevin Kelly wrote this on his 65th birthday. Being enthusiastic is really worth huge IQ points, just that mood. And then I'm also going to share this beautiful quote that I found from Purvi: honoring yourself, which is your wisdom, the place that you are right now, and then where you want to be, what are your goals. Thank you so much. And maybe we can start with questions.
So did you want me to bring everyone to the forefront, Janice?
Sure, if you can.
Would people like that?
I don't know.
I'm just going to do it. Why not? So I'm allowing people to talk and join one at a time. So bear with me. So in the meantime, if you have anybody has any burning questions, please raise your hand so that I know, or you can put it in the chat so that I can share it with Janice.
Looks like Mona has her hand up.
Okay, Mona, go for it. I think you can.
Janice,
Yeah.
I really do need to thank you first. This was absolutely brilliant. And probably for me, it's come at the absolute right time. The only reason Okay, my question to you is, when you are at a point in your life where you know you need to change direction, but you are scared and you really don't know where to start. So I've literally put down things going through the 3 sprints.
Yeah.
And I know what my focus should be, but it's getting there that is terrifying. How do you do that in this 3-minute time and stick to it?
So what I'm giving you is a taste of a little longer process that we have. So the actual process that we have is 7 different sprints to 9 sprints, depending on what time frame you do. The key, Mona, is breaking it down into small adjustments, mini adjustments, and forgiving yourself as you do it. So for me, it's sort of like, okay, I want to do this thing. And then, I realize each time I pause and I look at whether I've done it or not, that I was too aggressive. So then I break it down and I make it smaller. And then I break it down and I make it smaller. And at a certain point, that small step I begin to do. Does that make sense? So, we had and I'll use a tangible example. We had this delightful person who said, I want to read a book a week. This is a very mundane example. And what she realized was, she just had to break it into a longer set of time. So she broke it into smaller steps. I'm going to go ask friends about a book. I'm going to go look for a book. I might actually read about the reviews one day, and then finally I'm going to read the book. So by breaking down where you want to be shifting, when we think about, on a journey and going around a curve, right? You don't just go around the curve, it's incremental steps. You're like turning gradually into what you're doing. And yet, what we expect ourselves to do is immediately go from the beginning of the curve to the end of the curve. So, what I'm recommending to you is be kind to yourself, break it into smaller bits. Was that helpful?
Very, very, very helpful. You've actually just kind of, I don't know, in these few words, you've actually drawn a picture of who I am and how I want to get to where I need to. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for asking the question.
Anybody else? Anything you want to share? I'm already getting some really nice chat feedback here. Oh, Kiran, please go ahead.
Hey, Janice, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you very much. This was very helpful. And especially your last point where we just want to go from the start to the end. We often do that. And then we struggle. Why are we not getting there? Why are we not getting there?
Yeah.
So my question actually was, how often should we go back and revisit what we set up? The example you gave of reading a book, that may not be very, other things may not be very clear cut as that.
Yeah.
When we have big goals and we can set smaller milestones, but how often should we go back and revisit or take the next one on a list, stuff like that?
I gave the visualization. So one of the things that I do is I teach midlifers. And I think that when you are midlife, sometimes it's even harder because we've built up and invested and have a bank of experience in our life. And so we get frustrated with ourselves when we're not great at it each time. And so for me, and I'm just going to give my example, I have taken 5 years to make a shift, right? So in the beginning, it's like, oh, I'm going to rip that off and I'm going to do this major thing. And then as I'm doing it, I have to constantly, like once a month, I just pause and I say, how am I doing? And then I forgive myself. It's okay that you had to adjust your really aggressive goals that you set for yourself and you only got a quarter of them done, right? And so Karen, like part of this is that it's the biggest thing is paying attention to and celebrating how someone said to me, you are so audacious, right? And I'm like, well, I set really big audacious goals, right? Then I take a while to get to them. So I embrace that. So one of the visuals that I give to people is that I used to be a high diver, so the platform diver. And when I first I think I was in my first early 50s, I decided that, I wanted to do this pivot, as Purvi saying. And so the analogy I gave to people was to learn and do a high dive. It's fascinating because there's a moment of freedom and there's a lot of torture, right? So you have to you do your dive, you hit the water, and then you have to crawl out, climb up the ladder, then you do your leap, and it may or may not be good. You just have to keep practicing at it. But here's one of the more freeing things. When you are in the groove, and our brains call this flow, it's almost like time slows down. And so even though you are plummeting towards water, what you move into your brain it enables you to just do tiny little adjustments, imperceptible adjustments as you're falling through the air that enable you to hit the dive. What does that have to do with our lives? When we are in big fundamental or even small incremental changes, like I just moved into an empty nester, right? So I've set out, okay, it's going to take me 3 years to adjust. And so when you're moving through a change and you're truly in the flow and you're really just paying attention and being curious about yourself as opposed to judging yourself, you're able to slow that requirement for rapid change. And by the way, it will actually enable the change to happen faster. So we perceive that it's taking forever, but from the outside, the perception might be that it's happening rapidly. And I'm not sure if that makes sense. But that's really slow it down, just enjoy where you are, be there.
That helps, Janice. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Any other questions?
So I'm going to say that, I'm sure for everyone, this is when you start planning the next year, right? And everyone's starting to think about what they have done. And I get this feeling, oh my God, 2021 is done. It's over. We need to start planning for 2022. So we internally at Kids&Art are going to use what you shared because we need to start planning for next year. And we need to start thinking about all the things that we have been doing and what do we keep and what do we do better and what more can we do. But it was just fascinating. Today, instead of just thinking about myself, I took the crush for Kids&Art, and it was really helpful for me to just think about all the things that are, it's the same, whether it's personal life or work life, you have so many shoulda, coulda, I have to do it and I have to show up and we have to be there, right? So this was, I think, whether it's personal, professional, or relationships or anything, right? I think this is great. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me. And we have created a little promotion for Ahi, which you can use or share with friends. The crush is a full hour of these little sprints. And if you're in a big change cycle, I do recommend it. And you can watch some videos of individuals who have been through big change cycles, because it keeps you in touch with your wisdom when you're getting a volume of data coming in. How do you maintain and trust and listen to yourself when you're getting so much information? And so that's really what these techniques were developed for.
Thank you. I don't think you can see the chat, but
Oh.
I am just quickly going to read because we have 5 minutes. I want to make sure, people who want to stay and ask questions, please go ahead. But wow, I love the analogy, Janice. Beautiful. I think this is based on what you were telling Kiran that, Mona is referring to. And I love this one. So we have one from Tiffany. I don't think her desktop is working. She's joining us from Mississippi. She's um, from Children's of Mississippi. So we are so glad she's here. But she says,
Yeah.
thank you for grounding and reflecting experience in the middle of a very busy day, week, month, year. Some very evident themes came up for me. So um, thank you. Thank you very much. This is great. I'm glad we could do this at lunchtime. And for everyone who is here today, thank you for taking that hour for yourself. That's what we decided. We'll make this an hour of self care with Ahi. And we have Janice is starting us off in September, but we have another speaker in October, another one in November, and
Yeah.
another one in December.
Yes.
Amazing speakers, all creative thinkers, all who really thought about using creativity to sort of make our lives. I love your word playful. Playful has become my word for day today. I think we don't do enough of play. So I think that's great. So please do look at our site and take a look at the other three speakers as well. And do send your comments, feedback, anything. I will send it off to Janice, and any thoughts that come to your mind after you've taken all of this in. I hope that's okay with you, Janice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And thank you all so much. And please have a joyful rest of the day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm just getting lots of thank yous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Janice. Yes, just getting a lot of thank yous in the chat for you. So we still have 3 minutes. If the three people that are here, if you have, we have more people here. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask away. Yes, Mona.
Sorry, I'm hogging.
No,
But,
no.
oh God, you've got me thinking so much. What can you do if you are an individual who struggles with absolute self-doubt? How do you carry on motivating yourself is my question.
Use the Post-its. So I will tell you this powerful, powerful story. And by the way, we tend to have a lot of high achieving, busy brained individuals. And so this woman in particular had this glorious transition. It was just extraordinary to watch her. So she actually would come in to crushes and had a full blank wall. So she'd taken off her pictures, and she just had Post-its. And I have no idea how many Post-its she had, but she had a wall of Post-its in the first crush that she did. And then she began to organize them. And she came to, I want to say, 3 crushes over 1 month. And I would watch. It's fascinating for me, you know. It was almost like watching living art, because as she went through her weeks, she was adding to all the stuff that was on her brain, the doubt, the critical voice, all of that. Every time it would come up, she'd just add it to her wall, until at a point where she was able to consolidate it down and say, oh, I see the volume of this. This voice is, and she was able to identify, who is that voice? Oh, that critical voice is. I had a crusher stand up and say, oh my gosh, I found my Aunt Kay, right? All of those voices that we have are generated through experience or culture, or an individual was told us something and it made an impact, and it's there. So Mona, the first act is to actually see it. And then the next act is to understand it and master it and tear it up as many times as you need to. Right? Because it's really what what we have is just all of this input that we're giving priority over your own voice. Your own voice is your instinct and your wisdom. All that other stuff is other stuff.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, it's 1 o'clock, and I want to once again thank you, Janice, so much for doing this mini crush, starting us off on Ahi and sharing your wisdom and asking us to be playful. So thank you very much.
Thank you for what you do, Purvi. And I don't know if Carolyn had a question. She
Oh, Caroline,
but
I'm sorry. I didn't see if
I
you had
don't know if that was a question.
Go ahead, Caroline.
No, I didn't.
Oh,
actually.
okay. I just
But
saw
that's
something.
okay. It will give me an opportunity to thank you very much. I was absolutely fascinated with what came up on my Post-it notes, and I realized that part of it's about aging for me, and having just had a big birthday, and everything I think was kind of geared around that, and that's something that I'm definitely going to work on. So what does that mean, and why is that stopping me? And I can still write my lists of things I want to do, and for some reason I thought that was kind of finished in a way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and one thing that I will share, that I share in the broader spectrum of things, is I come from a line of very active, long-lived women, and so I haven't grown up with the normal age restrictions or gender restrictions that you normally have. And so I'll leave you with this one thing. The possibility that we're not over until it's over, which is, I have a aunt who is in her 90s now, who began weightlifting at 80. And at 90, she began competing as a world champion, and can and now she's doing boxing. Go figure. So whatever kinds of things that we're surprised by, just know that it's a constantly renewing thing. The only restriction we have is in our brains.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you everyone for being here. And if you haven't received the playbook, you will receive it in your thank you email. If you still didn't receive it, just email me. You know how to find me, and I will send it to you. Thank you, Janice, once again. And I'm going to turn the webinar off.
Okay, thank you.